is Diali Rich, and I am going to talk about mental health, self help 101, major depression, and relationships. And I would like to start with first covering the different depressions there are because a lot of people think there are one depression, but there are actually a few. And so you have major depression disorder, persistent depression disorder, seasonal affective disorder, and then psychiatric depression disorder, and postpartum depression, and premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and situational depression disorder. And so those are the different disorders that are out there. I know for a fact major depression disorder would be actually not really wanting to do too much of anything, lose interest in a lot of the things that are fulfilling in life. And so persistent depression disorder, it actually deals with, give me one moment, I have it pulled up here. Persistent depression disorder actually deals with changes in your appetite, sleeping too much, lack of energy or fatigue, low self-esteem, trouble concentrating, making decisions. And so basically, if you have depression that lasts for 2 years or longer, it is called persistent depression disorder. And so then you also have bipolar disorder, which is sometimes called manic depression. It has mood episodes in a range of extreme high energy with an up mood to low depressive periods. And when you are in the low phase, you'll have symptoms of the major depression disorder. Okay, and then the seasonal affective disorder, they shorten it up for SAD. That one is basically a period of major depression that happens during the winter months, and the days are short and you get less sunlight, and so it goes away during spring and summer, and you experience those symptoms only during that period of time. And then you have psychotic depression, and so people with psychotic depression have the same symptoms of major depression, but along with psychotic symptoms such as hallucination, delusional false beliefs. A hallucination is seeing and hearing things that aren't there. Paranoia, wrongly believing that others are trying to harm you. A combination of antidepressants and anti-somatic drugs can treat psychotic depression. And then you have postpartum depression, women with major depression in weeks or month of having childbirth. And so that is prepartum depression. Approximately 1 to 10 men also can experience depression in prepartum period. And so you also have premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Women with PMDD have depression and other symptoms that start with their period. And so you have feelings, you'll have, besides feelings depressed, you'll also have mood swings, irritability, anxiety, trouble concentrating, fatigue, changing appetites or sleep habits, and feeling and being overwhelmed. And then you also have situational depression, and that is a tip in, hold on, gotta catch up. Okay, and so you'll have depressed mood when you're having trouble managing stressful events in your life, such as a death in your family, a divorce, or losing your job. Doctors call this stress response syndrome. And so then you have one more depression, which is the atypical. I think I'm saying that word right. It's spelled ATYPICAL depression. And so with this depression, it'll increase appetite and sleeping more than usual, feeling of heaviness in your arms and legs, and oversensitive to criticism. And I'm pretty sure a few people have experienced all of these depressions at some point in their life. like they said, going through a death in their family, maybe losing a job, losing something very close to them, such as a car or home. Losing your children definitely will cause you to go into any one of these depressions. Also, having a lack of needs, such as money or food, or in some cases, if some people develop a bad habit, not having those type of things can also lead to depression. And so I want to say first that you must identify with what depression you have, what is causing you to be depressed, because those two steps is the most important keys to overcoming the depression and getting out of the depressed state. So I would like to talk about lack of willpower. Lack of willpower is where you know that you're capable of doing something, but you don't have the motivation to do it, or you don't, I guess, physically want to do it. And at some point, uh, not wanting to do it leads to the depression as well. Knowing that you have something to do that you just can't get it done. And when you try to get it done, you're doing it wrong. That can cause some anxiety and also cause you to be depressed. Also, the description of lack of willpower dealing with depression. And so you just don't want to do anything. You can do it, but you don't want to, even knowing that you're capable of doing it. And so I'll give some examples of my depression, and then and what it's like being in a relationship with me when I'm depressed. I have listened to some of my partners. Like I've said in previous episodes, I am currently in a relationship with someone, and that is also the inspiration for doing this podcast. And so, with my partner currently now, I do often get depressed, but with this relationship and me becoming more aware of my mental illnesses and wanting to overcome them, I have been controlling my depression a lot more. I am not going into the lowest points of my depression anymore. I am actually just maybe dropping to the midpoint and then coming back up out of the depression, and pretty soon I will no longer be affected by this disorder. I am confident in that because I have an 8-year-old child who I do not want to experience depression in her teenage years, and if I could prevent it in her adult years, I am striving to do that fully. And so, when I do get depressed, I try to find things to take me out of my depression. Definitely wanting to do more positive things in my life, doing more things that fulfill me on my intellectual level versus just a material level. I'm actually backing away from material objects such as clothing and jewelry and shoes and just needless things in life, and I am no longer desiring those things to find happiness in life, and I'm actually finding fulfillment and I guess more positive and productive things, such as starting my own business and taking pictures of good things and trying to reconstruct my memory into remembering the good memories and not the bad memories, because that's part of some of the causes. When you're constantly going through trauma and depression, your brain starts to reconstruct itself and unfortunately reacts to a lot of negative energy and it gives negative thoughts. So I have been reading more about mental health and I have been reading more about stones, energy, frequency. I'm learning more about spirituality because, like I've said in my previous episodes, with me becoming more spiritual and leaning away from religion, and I'm not encouraging anyone to do such as what I've done if they don't want to do that. This was all about my will, So that's that term of what I was talking about, that lack of willpower. I'm actually getting away from that stage of lack of willpower, and I am going into the stage of gaining more willpower to want to do more for myself and rely more on myself. And so since I've been creating more positive habits for myself, I've also been doing things that I normally wouldn't do, especially growing up in the street life, and then kind of in some sense, I guess, being hood or ghetto or however you want to, describe it or whatever. With me coming from that background, I've noticed that a lot of those things like clubbing, drinking, smoking, experiencing illegal substance, things of that nature, it was not doing any good for me. It was actually causing my depression to get worse when I'm not experiencing those things. So now that I have more positive habits that I've been engaging in, even when I'm not doing these things, I still feel more positive and confident about myself, and I don't have these negative paranoia thoughts about my life and the people around me. I have more trust in people. And so I definitely would suggest that if you are suffering from any depression, I don't care what depression it is, you definitely want to start focusing on trying to get a positive habit, and then finding someone to talk to constantly about when you're going through these episodes. And then even if you can't find someone to talk to constantly, it's really good to write these things down, because when you go back and you're in a more upper, happier state, and you read these things and you read how dark your mind was and what state of mind you were in, you're starting to bring light into that darkness, and so you will start overcoming those negative thoughts, and so then you'll start doing more productive, positive things when you are feeling so down and depressed. And so I remember being depressed to the point where I didn't want to live no more, being a mother and suffering from depression. I've experienced not wanting my child to be in this world without me. So I've had unfortunate thoughts of the unspeakable. So I was willing to basically take me and my daughter away from this experience of life, which is not a good idea. And I did speak with someone as soon as I started having those thoughts, because I love my child and I love myself as well, and I wouldn't do anything to hurt her or myself, especially now being in a more positive state of mind and becoming more emotional, healthier than I was growing up, especially when I first became a mom. I was definitely emotionally disturbed and distraught a lot of times. I was confused and lost, and I noticed that with me being an Aries and also me being a Virgo actually I'm an Aries / Pisces, dealing with the 13 signs. I know I probably shouldn't even really be bringing it up, but I'm bringing it up because that is one of my positive hobbies that I use to overcome my major depression. And so I put a lot of energy into that and learning that about myself to correct a lot of these negative thoughts. And so with the 12 zodiac, my moon sign is a Virgo, and that's nurturing and being a mother. And so with these personalities, you can if you actually have depression and a dark state, a lot of times you can actually act more boldly on these negative thoughts. And so that's why I brought that up. So with that being said, that the more I start reading into my personality and learning more about my signs and everything, the more I start understanding where it was hard for me to break certain habits and overcome certain behavior and correct things about myself. Like with being an Aries are very bold and they are blunt and they are risk takers and they are in a sense of daredevils. And so when you have like something like major depression disorder or any type of this depression disorder, uh, being in that state with that personality is not good, because at some point you could become acting on these destructive thoughts, such as suicide and harming yourself or others. I have harmed other people. I have harmed myself. The great thing about it was that nobody was harmed to the point where uh, nothing could be fixed, or nobody's life was ended. Nobody was actually physically harmed. It was a lot of just, I guess, traumatized and mentally and emotionally damaged, and that still is not good. When you're depressed, sometimes you tend to uh, bring the people in your life into your depressed state, and instead of them bringing you out of your depressed state, you're bringing them into depression, and that is uh, the same as harming your loved one, because you know you're if you keep constantly traumatizing your loved one, um, eventually you're going to cause them to have some form of PTSD or anxiety or even depressed, because they'll start blaming themselves that they're dealing with you, and they'll blame themselves for how you're treating them. They'll blame themselves for everything that you're doing to them, even though you're the one with the depressed disorder. So it is very, very, I'm encouraging everyone, because it's very important to speak with someone, even if it is just one time. Like I said, I have spoke with doctors. I have spoke with therapists throughout of my 33 years of living. I am not someone who just, the doctors, when I went to a physical or something like that, I talked to them and then they told me what was wrong, and then I just decided to go home and just constantly keep reading off the internet or books. No, I also have talked to people who actually have license in this field, but because I do not have the funds or the patient, and I constantly deal with emotional and mental battles, that I don't always feel open talking to someone. I don't always feel open letting someone into my world. Sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming and triggering to wonder if the person is judging you, or is the person going to go back and tell someone. And yes, the licensed therapist does have the uh, patient, what is it, the patient confidentiality law and everything, but it's still something that I think about, because I've had people backstab me where I've told them things and they've told people. I've had people, a relative, take my diary and read my diary, not to just their friends, but my friends and other people. It was stuff in there that, people just should not have known about myself. And then on top of that, I was made fun of and then bullied for that for a short period of time. So with that, that caused a lot of detachment issues, and it caused me to have a harder time opening up because of that. And so, uh, when I'm dealing with my depression, I don't want to be around anyone. I could make plans with someone and it could be something really important, but once I'm depressed, I'll probably cancel the plans that was previously. Now, I'm striving more on keeping my promises with people, because uh, my word is very important, keeping my word to people, and then also remembering what I said I would do, and doing it is important as well for myself, for my confidence and everything. And so I can remember actually coming out of my depression state for a short period of time. I wasn't drinking alcohol, and I was just like smoking a little weed or whatever, marijuana, and and I was basically treating myself with the marijuana, and so self-medicating in a sense, and I was doing pretty good. My life was pretty much on track. I had a great job. I actually had two great jobs, had great income. I didn't have a successful love life at the time because I still was battling with my depression in a sense, and since I was still mourning the the death of my sister in a sense, I was also kind of in denial of the depression as well. But I guess in the form of me, I guess being in denial of it, I was still striving to overcome it because I was experiencing more and more positive things and hobbies. And so I was like gardening, taking care of my home, taking care of my car, taking care of my daughter. We would go for walks, we would go to the park, we would grill. I would try to do more family oriented activities versus just like hanging out in the streets, on the block, in a club or a bar, stuff like that. Basically, what I call lower energy things. I start trying to experience more higher energy things, meditating more, reading more, and working out, eating right. And so when I was doing all of those things, I decided that I wanted to try to rekindle a relationship that had been lost, that I believed that was an important relationship for me at the time. But as I got back into the relationship, and within a year in the relationship, I had been put through some very challenging experiences, and so I definitely had some situational depressions at that time for sure. And I had some guys try to come in my house. Well, they did come in my house. They had guns. They laid me and my mom down. They laid my kids down. They robbed us. And this was all with me dealing with my ex, and the lifestyle that he was living was definitely a lower energy lifestyle, the street life. And it definitely caused me to spiral downward into the lowest point of my depression. And so I started being physical, and actually caused him to become depressed because he was constantly trying to please me, and he could not figure out how to please me or what to do. And so with that battle, he ended up becoming depressed. I believe he started uh, experiencing with illegal substance. Unfortunately, he definitely battled with poor sleeping habits, eating habits, constantly chain smoking tobacco, and weed as well. It was like he was always constantly trying to get out of the reality that was in front of him, and it was the relationship with me basically. And so, because we did have a child, um, we were actually starting to traumatize the children and the family and our family members as well. His brother became affected by our uh, toxic relationship in a sense. My mother became affected by it. Um, People who were just innocent bystanders end up affected by it. And so it was really dark time for me, and so I experienced this dark times for about 3 to 4 years, and that's where um, I actually thought of the worst of the worst, where I was thinking of, like I said, harming me, myself, and my child because of this, because I didn't feel like we deserved to be here, and I didn't feel like people deserved us in their life. And so now that I am researching mental health, and I am working to recover myself by all means, because like I said, I have an 8-year old looking up to me, and how she sees me is very important. So I have been doing my best trying to not be depressed and not uh, project that behavior on my daughter, because she doesn't deserve that. And so I uh, start telling myself that we deserve to live, me and her deserve to live and be happy. And so when you're going through those dark states, I would definitely suggest finding something to live for. Find that one thing that you know that if you wasn't here, uh, things just wouldn't be the same. You know, uh, I don't think that we should stay here and suffer. But if you have a child, your first duty is a mother. If you're a father, your first duty is a father. Um, the children are more important than your mental health. The children is more important than how you feel daily. But what I'm saying is that if you don't feel good daily, then your children are not going to feel good. So you must come out of that depression. It is important to come out of this depression when you have children, because your children did not ask to be here. Your children was not in the middle of the sex ritual that you did to bring them here. So it is not their fault that you are experiencing the depression or the emotional trauma that you're experiencing. And I would say that if you have children, you should actually try to find the better in that, and try to find the good in that child and experience that child for what they are. And that is your child. They are a little piece of you. They are the good piece of you. They are the preserved life of you that the universe wanted to leave here after you're gone. So they are your bloodline. So it's like they're your legacy. That's what we are actually put on earth for. We're here really to procreate. So, and to teach our children the same thing, to not just procreate, but also to extend and to live in a higher, happier state of mind and being here. And so if you do have children and you do have depression to the point where you are hurting your children and traumatizing them, find someone to help you take care of your children, that will allow you to be there on the good days when you can be there with your children, and they will explain to your children that you are not fully well, and that not they won't make excuses for you. But when you're not in the best state to protect your children, they will protect your child or your children for you. It was very nice to know that my child father, even with his battles that he has mentally and emotionally, that he snaps out of it with no problem to be a father at any time. He doesn't let anything stop him from being a father, and because of that, that does motivate me to be a good mom, and it does motivate me to not let my mental health and my emotional issues um, affect how I deal with my child, and it doesn't affect me being a mom. I could be paranoid when it comes to my daughter. I could be sheltering when it comes to my daughter, but I guarantee my daughter knows that I love her, and she knows that when I'm upset and when I'm going through things, it's not her fault. And I try to ensure every child around me that it's the same thing. And I believe every parent that deals with the mental illness, or a person, actually any adult, if you're suffering from any mental illnesses or whatever, you should definitely get help. Sexually desiring a child is never okay. That is a form of some form of mental disorder. And if you find yourself lusting after a child, you should definitely go get help. You should not be around any children. And I say that confidently, and I say it with love and care for yourself and for children. It is not okay to engage in any sexual relationships with a child, or act as the relationship is, where I've heard parents tell their children that the only woman in their life is going to be them, their mother. That is not healthy behavior. That is it's a bit twisted. And the same thing with the fathers. If you're a father and you're telling your daughter that no man's going to be in her life but you definitely need to correct that behavior, because what you want to do is set an example for your children on what type of mate to choose in their life when they become adults. You don't want them thinking that the parent is all they have and no woman or man is going to be good enough for them, because that is not what the parent is intended for. We are parents. We are here just to raise our children and to be the best people that we can be for ourselves. People get lost in mental health and in parenting and relationships often, because we forget that the relationship is supposed to be more important than our depression. We forget that parenting is supposed to be more important than our depression. We get so wrapped up in this mental health disorder and illnesses that we often forget the purpose of our life, and that is being in a relationship, finding fulfillment with our mates or our family members, and having healthy relationships with them, and being great role models for our children. If we have children, it is very hard when you have mental health issues trying to be a role model for your child, and it can lead to depression more harder than anything. Losing your child, losing custody of your child, and doing everything you can to get them back and you don't get them back, can cause a lot of depression and suicidal thoughts. I would suggest to anyone in that situation, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep trying. Work on yourself. Maybe the universe is saying right now it's not the time for a child to be in your present, because you may not be the best role model for these children. And maybe that's not even the message either. Maybe it's just saying focus on yourself right now. And when you are a better person, your children will definitely be able to be in your life. Suicide is should be like the last option to anyone. I would say don't commit suicide. Don't kill yourself. Instead, ascend, do better, become the best you possible. If you have those thoughts that you just seem to cannot get out of your head, talk to someone. Um, Definitely talk to someone. If you don't want to talk to a licensed therapist, I am an unlicensed therapist. I have a great way of looking at things from the outside, also the inside as well. I have a great way of seeing things for what they really truly are. I've worked with the customer. I worked in customer service for 15 years now almost, and I know it's weird, someone who has all these mental illnesses and depressions and disorders and post-trauma stress disorder and anxiety. I've been dealing with the public all this time, and believe me, I get triggered often. When I get triggered, it's hard. Sometimes I have to leave my job. Sometimes my job get in jeopardy. But the great thing about with job and law is that when you have mental problems and your boss is aware of, and you have paperwork showing this, they will accommodate you. They will help you. So even if you don't want to talk to your therapist or someone like that, but you are having mental illnesses, problems and things like that, at least talk to your manager, let them know what's bothering you, let them know what's going on, so that they won't put you in triggering situations, because by law they are not supposed to put anyone in any situation that is going to trigger them. So definitely talk to someone dealing with any of these depressions. Postpartum depression is always hard because you're a new mom, and is now motherhood is happening to women so young now. Young ladies are teenage moms, and so postpartum can become very, very hard. Also, for women, like I was 24 when I had my child, but the person I was having my child with was in jail, and so I never thought I would be experiencing my pregnancy by myself like that, and that caused a lot of depression with myself as well. So postpartum is very hard for both men and women, because when a woman experience depression, the man, he may not be the one going through the depression states, but if she's experiencing depression, he is not getting fulfilled, or he is not being happy. He's not going to be happy either. It's just the outcome of being in a relationship and being with someone who is mentally ill. So, you know, if you is going through postpartum, I would say talk to a doctor, and then reach out to a loved one that understands. Do not try to talk to anyone that do not understand mental illness, because when you talk to them, they're going to trigger you. When you talk to them, they may even traumatize you and make it worse for you. So I would suggest not talking to anyone who do not understand mental illness. You get a lot of people who don't understand mental illness, and they are constantly shaming people and telling people to mask it and trying to sedate people into out of their mental illness. And I'm gonna be honest, medication is only okay for a little while. Medication only help you for a little while. It's the want and the willpower of wanting to get over these mental illnesses is what's going to help you get better, is what's going to help you get stronger. The belief and the faith of knowing that you're going to get better is what will make you better. The moment that you believe that you're never going to get over something, you're never going to recover, and you're going to always you're going to need these drugs and things like that, and you're going to remain in that state. I would definitely say that mind over matter, mind over matter for sure. It's okay when you get depressed to acknowledge your depression. It's okay to say today I don't feel good, but you have to come out of that state tomorrow. Do not ever let your depression and your mental illnesses keep you down for more than 24 hours, because after that it's going to get harder and harder and harder to get out of it. So I would say acknowledge it and then move on. That would be the best. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to end this segment. I'm going to say please give feedback after you listen to these episodes. Please, I need feedback. It's important to give feedback for things when you talk about it. So it'd be nice for some feedback. Even if you don't want to give feedback on what I talked about, but you just want to talk about your issue, and maybe two minds can come up with a solution for the problem. Like I said, I deal with hypersexuality, compulsive sexual behavior, anxiety, bipolar issues, anger issues, mood swings. I actually used to get real depressed when I used to have my menstrual cycles, and that's that premenstrual dysphoric disorder, where I would get rageful and I would be crying. I would be like unbearable. So please reach out. I have a Facebook page. You can like and follow D'Ali Rich LLC. You can like me on there. You can interact with me on there. I have some I'm going to do a visual for this episode on my YouTube channel for Alicia SD. I also have a couple episodes on mental health on there as well. And then also my Twitter is Crown Diamond Rob with my Twitter. It's not very active right now at the moment, but I would like to get it more active, and I would like to engage more on Twitter, because Facebook has so many restrictions that when we're talking about some mental health issues, that we may get restricted on some of the topics. So that's why I'm actually trying to redirect some of my traffic to Twitter, because we can engage more openly about the topics without being penalized on Facebook for what words or situations we choose to discuss. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this segment now. Everyone have a great day. I'm actually feeling great about this episode. It's been a while since I made one, and so I'm gonna just go ahead and end it. Like I said, peace, love, prosperity. Please get well. Please reach out. Please do not be afraid to talk about your mental health, even if you're a man or a woman. Like I said, I don't judge. I'm open-minded, and I am also a patient as well. So, love. Bye.